So let's go to this next one here, which is something that happened that I really like. Rob, do you mind pulling up the clip with MSNBC Stephanie Ruhle says Trump is more accessible than Biden, but jokes he had, he told her to go F herself. By the way, I actually love this. Folks, if you're running a business, you're in sales, you have to watch this. There's such a big lesson in this. Rob, go ahead and play this clip.
Donald Trump had that crazy rally at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I rolled the dice, and I called him on the phone.
Watch this.
And he answered!
Of course he did! Of course!
Look at the guy.
What'd he say?
And I wasn't calling to chit-chat. I said, Mr. President, this is Stephanie Ruhle. You made a lot of comments last night, blah, 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 blah. And it was not an on-the-record conversation. Long story, so I'm not going to get into what he said, but I called for one reason. I said, you just said a whole bunch of public things. I'd like to sit down for an interview with you. We got 5 days before the election. So we didn't get into anything. There's nothing for me to report. I called him and said, I want an interview with you. Obviously, he said no. But my point is, I was able to get to him by dialing his phone. Right. Now, that might be completely ape shit, and you're like, I can't believe people know this guy's phone number. Yeah. But the reverse of that, if I were to want to connect with VP Harris or President Biden, there's 50 people between me and that. I could write a note that maybe could get to somebody, then through Pony Express and a pigeon, something might end up in a mailbox.
That is embarrassing.
And I called DJT to say, yo, can I have an interview? He told me to go fuck myself, but I still was able to connect with him. Yeah.
But he's still picked up.
Tom, thoughts?
I love that. I absolutely love it because you know what it points out? That we've been living in a stage show, and the directors and the producers didn't want the media to really talk to the actors. And the actors are Biden and Harris. And instead, Trump, who is famous for being accessible, he's famous for being a quick text. Not for everybody, but for the people that know him, because he knows the game. You know, the art of the deal means you know who to call. Mm-hmm. The art of the deal means when you need a permit in New York, you call City Hall and say, you know, I got all these people working, I got all these things going on here. What's up with my permit? Right? The art of the deal means that you work the phones and you influence. You don't influence. That's it. You don't influence from being behind 50 people and being a puppet. Right? And that is what Biden and Harris were. And Stephanie Ruhle has just pointed out, I would have to go through all this stuff to get to know where. Let me translate it for you. Mm-hmm. Stephanie Ruhle says, my job is to interview people and to get segments and get them on my network. That's what I'm paid to do. I am a commentator. That's what I'm supposed to do. I try to do that with Biden and Harris. I can't do my job because there's 50 people in my way. But DJT picks up the phone. Guess what? When you're making deals and when you're out making things happen and you're leading, you're accessible enough to the right people so that you can get crap done. And we have just seen Biden and Harris are puppets behind the stage and the directors and producers. Yep. That's what we had.
I think there's even a bigger story here. So it's sort of a metaphor for the difference between Trump and someone like Kamala or Biden or a capitalist versus a socialist. Trump... One of the biggest things he says is we're going to cut regulation, we're going to cut red tape, we're going to make this Doge thing happen, the Department of Government Efficiency. You know, Bill Maher talks about how to build a shed in the back of his house, you've been to the back of his house, or to build a toilet in California, it would cost $5 million by the time you go through regulation, by the time some palms get greased, by the time that you go through all this regulation and red tape, how much more it costs versus just picking up the phone, calling somebody and getting through. So there's a bigger message here. The fact that she called Trump and he picked up and he's like, hello, no interview, but have a nice life, is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And that's the whole part of being efficient. By the way, you know who's the most accessible person here? The most accessible person here? PBD. If I text PBD or if I call PBD, right away. There's other people sometimes that make you go through them to get to PBD. And if I have to go through a certain person who may no longer be here anymore, it might take me days just to get back from PBD. But I respect PBD's time, so maybe I don't go directly to PBD on things. But it's just a metaphor for sometimes bureaucrats and people with red tape and regulation want to get their palms greased or get in the way and use power. when all you got to do is sometimes go to the source.
And I think I'm being dead serious. I had this conversation yesterday on Minnect about how accessible, and this isn't a plug for Minnect, but it's going to sound like it because it kind of is. You can, if these people get a phone number, they can get to the president. Yesterday, this guy left me this awesome Minnect, and he's like, Vinny, I just got to give you guys a shout out. He's like, I had an idea that I wanted to talk to Tulsi Gabbard about, who's going to be the new director of intelligence, right? That's her new job. Yeah. This guy was like, he's communicating with the person that's right next to the president and the accessibility. And he's like, I gave her all these ideas that she could use or not use. She messaged me right back and said, great idea if there's a way to implement them. Like, think about, she can get to the president. People on Minnect can literally get to the freaking White House and talk to people.
Such a good point. You know, it's funny for me being in sales. This is even bigger than that, Vinny. Let me. And I said this on Charlie Kirk's shows yesterday. So I'm in a meeting. We're in Diamond Bar, and these two guys are debating on stage on what's important. One guy who's this macho, arrogant, cocky guy says, never pick up the phone call of your guys and wait 24 hours. Because if you do, it makes them think you're not busy. If you answer it a day later, you're training them to think you're so busy that they also work so hard because they'll say, oh my God, such and such is so busy. So never be accessible, right? This is what the guy's saying. And this other lady, she's up there. She's like, no, I like to be accessible. And they're going back and forth. And another guy who's a former Marine jumps in. No, you can't. You guys need to know your time is valuable. And if you don't respond, I'm like, oh, wow. Pretty heated debate. I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I'm a street guy. And I like that she is accessible.
Yep. You
could get a hold of her and she would respond back. And guess what? You know, whatever business dealings, I'm no longer with them. You have no idea. I went up to her. I said, listen, I just want you to know this. You're right. Don't listen to them.
Good.
I told her that. She may remember this. I said, you're right. Don't listen to them. She's my boss.
Yeah.
I said, stay that way. We like it.
Yeah, of course. Okay?
We like it. You just have to protect abuse, right? So in sales, in PHP, I watch my sales guys. I had one guy whom I gave somebody for him to go visit and train in his state. 3 years, the lady's there. He never visited her, ever. And she would say, I could never get a hold of him. I gave another guy like this. Accessible, accessible, accessible. This guy built a massive agency. This guy never built a vice president, ever, himself, ever. And he's probably more talented than the other guy, was never accessible. The key to accessibility is important. And then you got to protect yourself as well, but you got to be accessible for the people that want to get a hold of you. Guy calls me the other day, he's like, hey, so Patrick, I haven't spoken to you for 3 years. Dylan's sitting right next to me. I'm like, why is he calling me? Yeah. Former commercial real estate agent. When I first moved to Florida, I was interviewing a few guys to be a commercial real estate agent. And one night, I'm calling him 2-3 times after 6 o'clock. He's not picking up because I got an opportunity I want to get some questions on. He calls me the next morning. He says, hi, I noticed you called me last night. I said, yeah, I called you 3 times. He says, I have a rule. I don't answer phone after 6 o'clock. I said, oh, really? Yeah. I said, well, I'm planning on buying hundreds of millions of dollars of properties. I also have a rule. My commercial real estate agent needs to work for me. We're not going to work it together. He calls me. He says, how are things? Are you still doing that business? Is it going good? I said, yeah, it's going good. You know, we've grown. He says, that's good. Do you need any? Did you ever end up buying any real estate? And I'm like, this guy doesn't check any story.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I bought this, I bought that, I bought this, I bought this, I bought. How come you never called me? My answer, I never wanted to break your code of don't call me after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Silence for 10 seconds.
Oh. Well, I don't think I did.
Okay. I said, God bless. Got off the phone.
Bye.
And I told Dylan, I said, Dylan, you want to get into sales? People got to get a hold of you.
Yep.
Never be too big of a big shot to think that people can't get a hold of you. And by the way, sometimes your people that are your handlers, if you're not too careful, they'll make you look like an asshole because they're not getting back to anybody.
Yep.
And like, dude, you got to get back to people. And so you got to also be careful where you're training your guys to also be available, accessible, and get back to people quickly. If you don't have an answer right now, you're like, well, I didn't get back to him for 3 days because I didn't have an answer. Tell them, I don't have an answer, but can I get back to you Friday at such and such time? Yes. Put in a calendar to get back to them.
Man.
That's an addition. And by the way, the reason why Trump has that is why he's good in sales. You can't not have that and be good in sales. You have to be accessible.
PBD, you also told the story. It might have been on BPW. It was regarding Mario. Someone said,
oh, yeah.
Hey, Mario, I got to talk to PBD. It's super urgent. It's urgent. Was that a BPW who did that?
Yeah, I did.
Super urgent.
Yeah.
And then you get on the phone. and quickly you realized, well, this wasn't that urgent. This could have been something we could
That
have
wasn't
handled.
me. That was Will Guidera, that Mario's
Okay.
assistant sent an email saying very urgent.
Yes.
Mario gets on with Will. Will is like, did somebody
Okay,
die?
gotcha.
No. Why is it that, so it
Yes.
was a very interesting thing. Christmas around the corner. We are wearing the sweater. That is the most incredibly comfortable sweater. It hugs you.
I love it.
I dare you to order 1 and 2 for your family and wear it and say, I don't like it. Okay? I dare you to do it. On the back, if you're proud to say Merry Christmas, this one says Merry Christmas. If the camera can zoom in on Tom, Vinny, or Adam. Adam says Happy Hanukkah, but we're mainly going to focus on Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Special order.
Okay? It crosses out Happy Holidays. Rob, if you can put the picture up there so people can see it.
It says Chappy
Instead it
Hanukkah.
says Merry Christmas. It's out there. And then we have a couple of the Merry Christmas hats that are left. If you can go back to the Merry Christmas hat, Rob, that we have left at the top. Those 2 are still here with scripture in it for some of you guys that want that. And then we have the pajamas. We have a bunch of gear. Future Looks Bright pajamas, Future Looks Bright shirts. And these pants are here matching the sweater that I'm wearing. That's got the Valuetainment logo, Future Looks Bright on the side, and the Future Looks Bright, what do you call this stuff?
I'm taking those.
What is this thing called?
The tassels. Tassel, the waistband tighteners.
there's a-
I don't
there's
even know the
a
real
name
name.
for it, but
Whatever,
they're here
Adam.
as well.
These are the softest sweaters I've ever felt in
this
my
is
life. I
just
swear to God. I
incredible
don't wear
wearing
sweaters
this.
in Miami. This is ridiculous.
Go place the order today. And the way you get it pre-Christmas is to put shipping that it's shipped out today. You do that. Today is the last day to get it. First 50, a unique Future Looks Bright mug coming your way. Place your orders if you're proud and comfortable saying Merry Christmas and sporting them when you go to the mall anywhere during this season. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.